The original post, my girlfriend of 5 years, said I'm not an alpha, so I let her know. Boyfriend watched me take the promotion she wanted him to have. VA28M was with my girlfriend. Emily 27F for 5 years. We met in college, moved in together after graduation, and for most of our relationship, I genuinely thought we were solid. We weren't the flashiest couple, but we had stability. She used to say she admired my calm nature, my patience, how I never got into drama. But over the last year, things started to change. She became restless, more distant, less affectionate. She started dropping subtle criticisms. You're too nice, or you're just predictable. Then those hints started turning into full-on complaints. One night, she was scrolling through Instagram Reels and said, I just wish you had more edge, more alpha energy. I laughed it off thinking she was joking. She wasn't. A few weeks later, she sat me down and said those words that still echo in my head. I'm not attracted to you anymore. I need someone more dominant, someone who takes charge and alpha. I asked her if there was someone else. She hesitated, then admitted she'd met someone at her job, someone exciting, assertive, and ambitious. I'd heard her mention him before in passing, never thought twice. Apparently he worked in sales. At the same company I did, different department, same building. I didn't argue, I didn't beg. I simply nodded and said, I understand. And that was it. 5 years ended just like that. The aftermath of breakup gutted me. We shared an apartment, so I moved out within the week. I stayed with a buddy of mine for a while and quietly began rebuilding. No angry posts on social media, no calls, no texts. She didn't even check in. I buried myself in work. It was the only thing that helped shut off my brain at the time. It was an internal job opening for a senior strategic operations lead, a high-level position that had been vacant for months. Emily had always discouraged me from applying, saying it was too political, that I was too good for that nonsense, and that it would be a better fit for someone like Derek. Now, unshackled and fueled by quiet fury, I decided to throw my name in the grind. For 2 months, I put everything into that role: interviews, presentations, extra hours. My manager, who'd always liked my work, gave me his full backing. I didn't gloat. I didn't tell a soul, especially not Emily. Meanwhile, I heard whispers around the office. Emily and Derek had gone public. They were apparently the new power couple in sales. Word was Derek also had his eye on that same promotion, the one he didn't even qualify for yet. But he was loud, cocky, and confident, and I guess that's what Emily liked. He didn't even make it past the first interview round me. I nailed every step. The reveal fast forward to last Monday. It's my first day officially in the new role. New office, corner window, nameplate on the door. I'm in a tailored suit, not my usual style, but I figured why not own the moment. I was reviewing some quarterly projections when I heard voices in the hallway, a tour of some kind. I stepped out to greet them. One of the HR reps was walking a few new hires around, and lo and behold, Emily was with them. I guess they'd tapped her to help on board since sales had high turnover. She looked up and froze. Her eyes flicked to the nameplate beside me, then back to my face. I gave her a polite, professional smile. Nothing more. Didn't say anything unnecessary. Just, welcome to corporate strategy. Let me know if you need anything. She nodded slowly, her face pale. Then came the cherry on top. Derek was at the end of the group, sipping from a protein shaker, looking completely out of place in his too-tight dress shirt. When he realized whose office Emily was standing in front of, his entire posture shifted. The smug grin disappeared. I went back inside and shut the door gently. A quiet wind since then. There's been tension. Emily hasn't reached out, but I've caught her glancing my way in meetings. I've noticed Derek has toned down his usual bravado. He's probably realizing that the predictable guy she dumped now has an office overlooking the skyline and direct access to the executive board. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need revenge. I didn't even need closure. All I needed was patience and to let the results speak for themselves. Update 1: The office doesn't forget. And neither do I. It's been about 6 weeks since I officially stepped into the corner office at first. I thought Emily and Derek would try to pretend I didn't exist. They kept their distance, stayed tight-lipped. In meetings, avoided eye contact in the cafeteria. But office culture has a way of amplifying the obvious, and nothing stays secret for long when people smell drama, especially this kind of drama. Derek's insecurity started. Subtly, the first crack came during a cross-department strategy meeting. I was presenting quarterly objectives outlining department realignments. When Derek, sitting near the back, kept interrupting with questions that had nothing to do with the agenda. Stuff like, "Don't you think this will negatively affect sales morale? Isn't this approach a bit passive for market engagement?" He was clearly trying to undermine me in front of the room, puffing himself up. Kept glancing toward Emily, who sat beside him, nodding like a loyal cheerleader. The old me might have snapped or felt flustered. Not anymore. I kept calm, answered his questions thoroughly, and then gently reminded everyone, let's stick to relevant input. We'll have time for broader discussion later in the appropriate forum. A few team leads smirked. One even chuckled quietly. Derek's face tightened. After the meeting, he stormed out without saying a word. Emily lingered behind. She looked at me like she wanted to say something, but didn't. She turned and walked out silently. The gossip storm hits by the end of that week. The whispers had become full-blown gossip. Apparently, someone in HR had seen the employee files and connected the dots. Word spread. Did you know Derek's girlfriend used to date the new strategic lead? For like years, coffee machine conversations exploded. People started watching us like characters in a live soap opera. Some of my colleagues started giving me the "you're a better man than me" nod in the hallway. A few even joked that I should teach a class on professionalism. I ignored it all. Let them talk. But Derek couldn't. He started acting twitchy, oversharing in meetings, getting defensive with his manager. I heard he pulled Emily aside and whispered, not so quietly, "Why does he have to be everywhere now?" Sorry, Derek. That's what happens when you try to build your empire on someone else's ruin. Emily starts. Reaching out, then came the shift in Emily. It started with small talk in passing. "Hey, congrats again on the promotion. You've really grown into the role." A week later, that meeting today, "You handled it like a pro." Derek was totally off base. I nodded politely each time, but didn't engage beyond what was necessary. Then, one day, she caught me in the elevator. Just the two of us. She leaned against the wall and said, "I've been thinking about how things ended. Maybe I was unfair. You're really different now. In a good way." I didn't take the bait. I just pressed the button from my floor and said, "People change. That's life." She looked almost disappointed, like she'd expected me to fall over myself because she threw me a breadcrumb. "Sorry, Emily, that guy's long gone." The next week, she accidentally booked the same lunch slot as me in the shared conference room. She brought up how her relationship with Derek was a bit rocky lately, that he has trouble with insecurity and gets weird when she talks to male colleagues. I simply replied, "You chose someone exciting. That comes with its own kind of stability or lack of it." She looked stunned, then tried to laugh it off. "You always were too good at reading between the lines." I packed up my lunch and left. A little office Baxter Borino. Here's where it gets juicy. Last Thursday, I was reviewing pipeline projections when I got an anonymous tip through the internal feedback form. Yes, the one no one ever uses. It said, "Might want to check into Derek's reporting. There are discrepancies. I don't act on rumors without proof." But it piqued my interest. I pulled up the last 3 months of sales figures and noticed something odd. Inflated projections. Inconsistent close dates, and bonuses that didn't quite match the numbers. I sent it to compliance for a quiet internal audit. I haven't heard anything official yet, but I've seen the signs. Derek's been called into 2 closed-door meetings. He's stopped making cocky remarks. He looks over his shoulder now, and Emily, she's more awkward than ever. She bumped into me by the coffee machine Friday afternoon and said, "I don't know what's going on, but Derek's under a lot of stress. They're reviewing all his sales logs." I just nodded and said, "Hope everything checks out." She stared at me like she wanted me to confirm something, maybe even ask about her. But I didn't. I went back to my office, the one with the view. Why I'm not bitter people assume I'm mad, that I'm seeking revenge. that I'm savoring every second of their collapse. The truth is, I'm not. What Emily did, it hurt. Deeply. But I healed the right way. Not by stooping to pettiness, not by clapping back. I healed by building something better. It's by refusing to be defined by how she left me. She thought alpha meant loud and dominant. But to me, it means self-assured, quiet strength, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself. She traded stability for flash. She's now stuck with a man who crumbles under pressure and a reputation that people whisper about in the break room. I didn't have to lift a finger. What's it? Next rumor is, the audit will conclude by the end of the month. If Derek did fudge numbers, and it looks like he did, he'll be out. There's no second chances for that kind of thing in our industry. Emily might try to pivot. Maybe she'll jump companies. Maybe she'll stay and lay low. Either way, I won't. Get involved. I've got bigger things ahead. I've been invited to present at an executive leadership summit next quarter. One of the VPs even hinted at grooming me for a director-level role within 18 months. Meanwhile, the same people who once doubted me now ask for my insight. Funny how quickly things change. Final update: the alpha she wanted watched me fire him. While she watched me leave her behind, it's been 3 months since my last update. Enough time for everything and everyone to fall exactly where they belong. Let's start with Derek. The downfall wasn't loud. It was surgical. The compliance team finished their review and brought their findings to upper management. Turned out, Derek had been inflating his quarterly projections, manipulating data to trigger early bonuses, and reallocating sales between reps to make himself look better. When the hammer dropped, it wasn't dramatic. No shouting. Was called into HR on a Tuesday afternoon and never came back to his desk. Within an hour, his access badge was deactivated and 2 security guys quietly boxed up his belongings. Everyone watched, pretending not to. I didn't. I stood in the hallway near my office, arms folded, completely still. He glanced up at me once as they walked him out. I didn't smirk. I didn't nod. I just looked through him like the ghost of a bad decision. Word spread fast. By the end of the day, the office knew what happened. The sales department was in shambles. His team felt betrayed. The reps whose commissions he'd stolen were furious. Clients he'd misled were being reassigned. It was a mess. And Emily. Oh, she was still here. Her fall was slower and more public without Derek to orbit around. Emily looked lost. At first, she tried to distance herself. I had no idea he was doing that, she told anyone who would listen. We were having problems anyway. I never really agreed with how he handled things. People weren't buying it. They remembered how loudly she'd supported him in meetings, how she'd defended his questionable ideas, how she used to brag that her boyfriend was the kind of man who knows how to get what he wants. Now, that same man had been caught cheating the company and escorted out like a thief. The professional contrast between us became impossible to ignore. While she shuffled through sales calls and tried to stay under the radar, I was presenting at leadership, summits, mentoring new hires, and getting mentioned in company newsletters as a rising star. I was offered a raise and a new title, Director of Strategic Growth, another corner office. Another level up. The same friends who once flocked around Emily and Derek suddenly wanted to grab lunch with me, ask about my journey, congratulate me for staying true to myself. When the social circle splintered, we had a shared group of mutual friends, people from college, former coworkers, game night regulars. After the breakup, most of them stayed neutral. But neutrality never lasts when things get uncomfortable. One of our friends, Jason, called me up out of the blue and said, "Man, I gotta be honest, we all thought you were the boring one. Turns out you were just the one with your sh*T together." Others followed. One messaged me on LinkedIn to ask if I could refer him to a role in my department. Another confessed that Emily had always come off as dismissive of me behind closed doors, especially after she started dating Derek. I wasn't surprised. Turns out, when someone builds their identity around tearing you down, they don't leave much to stand on once you're gone. Emily tried to host a birthday, Party last month. The usual crowd barely showed up. She posted pictures online with vague captions about knowing who your real friends are. The subtext was clear, and honestly, it felt justified. Her final attempt at closure last week, she finally approached me. It was late. Most of the floor had cleared out. I was wrapping up emails when she knocked on my door, holding 2 coffees like old times. Peace offering? She asked. I raised an eyebrow. She placed one on my desk and sat down without asking. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, she began. Not just for how things ended, but for not seeing who you really were. I thought I knew what I wanted. Turns out I didn't even know what worth looked like. Stayed quiet. She looked around the office at the skyline view, the awards on the wall, respect carved into every inch of the space. You became everything I thought I needed someone else for, she whispered, and I threw it away. I looked at her, not with anger, not with pity, just peace. I didn't become this because of you, Emily, I said calmly. I always had it in me. You just never took the time to see it. She nodded, eyes glossy. Do you think we could ever know? I interrupted gently. We're too far apart now. I'm not looking back. She left without finishing her coffee. Where I am now. VA started seeing someone. Her name is Maya. We met during a panel I hosted for rising professionals. She's smart, confident, grounded, doesn't play games, doesn't need someone to prove themselves to her with loud gestures or fake bravado. We've only been on a few dates, and I'm not rushing it. But it feels right. She asks questions, listens, challenges me in all the best ways, and more importantly, she respects me. I've also been accepted into an executive mentorship program. One of the VPs, a hard-ass known for being impossible to impress, pulled me aside after my last presentation and said, "You have presence, not noise. Presence. That's rare. Sometimes I still catch people in the office whispering when I pass, but now it's with respect. Some even admiration. Not bad for the nice guy who wasn't alpha enough." Final thoughts, people. Talk about revenge like it has to be dramatic. Slashed tires, screaming matches, viral clapbacks. But the best revenge is no revenge at all. It's peace, growth, success that doesn't need a spotlight because it shines all on its own. Emily taught me something not about love, but about values, about what happens when you prioritize flash over foundation. When you chase a caricature of strength and miss the quiet power standing right beside you. She wanted an alpha. I became a leader. And she got exactly what she asked for, just not the way she imagined.